Yamaha Virago 750 1995. Brake pads to the front of the wheel, of course. I'll show you how to visually check them out and how to replace them. Okay, here we go. So the brake pads are located on your front wheel. The front wheel and this whole system here has to come off. There's one on each side. On the Virago 750, there's a set of brake pads on that side, and there's a set of brake pad on this side over here. Be careful you don't break this cable. This is the cable that goes to your odometer for your speed. Easy to replace, but if you don't have to replace it, just be careful. This section here, the caliper we could call it, is held down by 2 screws. I took the liberty of removing the screws with the tools. Now I can do it by hand. That way. 2 screws on the ground. Once the screws are out, you just slide it backwards, like that. This will give you a visual access to the brake pads themselves. The brake pads are located over here. There are 2 per set. In the center, you see there's a small spacing right there, a small gauge. It's sort of a gauge to measure how much brake pads you have left on your motorcycle. Basically, I have more than enough right now. I'm not even halfway through because I changed these brake pads at the beginning of last season, and I put in at least 15,000 kilometers. So basically more than enough, but I'll show you how to remove these and put the new ones on. Okay? So once the caliper is in your hands, on this side over here there's a cover. Plastic cover, it's simply snapped to the caliper itself. When you remove these, you have access to the 2 pins that secure the brake pads in their proper position. The way to remove the cover itself, just put in a screwdriver in it, push it inwards, and it'll just pop off. If you take a look, the 2 sides here, 2 little clips, one on each side. You push one in and it pops off as you just saw. Put that on the ground. Inside here, just be careful you don't twist it too much. This little mechanism, metal, is sort of spring loaded. Be careful when you take these 2 pins out. These 2 pins secure the 2 brake pads that we saw right over here. 2 pins, one over here and one over here. You can't just take them out. You have 2 safety pins preventing these 2 big pins to come out. The way to access these, you simply take a pair of long nose screwdrivers, turn the pin, as you saw, it just popped out. Make sure that you have access to the rounded side so that you're able to pin the safety pin out, to pull the safety pin out just like that. You have 2, one here and one over here. 2 safety pins are out. Next, the 2 pins that secure everything in its proper place. Might be hard to take them out. Use the pair of long nose. Push the spring-loaded plate in just a bit, and the pin is out. Same thing on the other side. Push it in, the pin is out. Once that's out, the spring-loaded plate will be in your hands. Once that's out of the way, the brake pads are now in your hands. As I told you earlier, there's a small gauge in the middle, and if I take a look at the brake pads, more than enough brake pads for now. Say I had a new set of brake pads and these were worn out. The new brake pads are much thicker. Like this is halfway through. It would normally be from here to just about here. Almost, I could say, 1/4 of an inch. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Meaning, I can't put the new brake pads in easily. Well, yeah, I can put them in, but I'm going to have problems putting the caliper back on the disc because I won't have any room between the 2 brake pads, which is supposed to be about that big. Okay, so what I do, I take a screwdriver, side to side from the inside, and I force it with my hands by pushing like this and pulling, so that this round circle here is back into its original position, which is inwards. I do the same for the other side. I push it that way. This way, the gap in the center, instead of being about a finger thick, it'll be 1.5, because I'll have more room to put my new brake pads in. So say I just pushed them in. Now I do the reverse. I do it the other way around. I start with the brake pads. Put them in. Next step, spring-loaded mechanism. In. Like that. You got to hold everything in place because everything's going to fall. The pin, you got to grab your first brake pad, push it in just a bit so that you cleared that spring-loaded plate. Push it in through the second brake pad all the way through. Now it is all the way through. Don't let it go because the plate will fall. It's going to go that way and come out. Second pin. Get your first brake pad, push on the plate so that you clear it. So I just cleared it through the second brake pad all the way in. But now these pins are in, but I need to put the safety pins in. So align the holes. There will be small holes. Use a pair of long nose. Like that. Now there's a hole here, and there's a hole here. Safety pins, the cutter pins, back into the original position, back in. Same thing for the second one. Back in. But now you see they're popping out just a bit. Give it a twist. Now they disappear. Just like that. Now I'm able to put my plastic plate back on. Push it in. It's back on. Ready? Now, if I did my job properly, the spacing should be more than enough to put my caliper back on. Why? Because my brake pads were still very good. If I would have put some new brake pads on it and forgot to expand my compressors, we could call them, I never would have been able to clear the disc. So by pushing them outwards with the new brake pads, I'm able to put the brake pad back in, put my 2 screws back in, tied them good with a ratchet or whatever. I use a ratchet. Back in. Once they're in solid, there is a small spacing between the pad and the disc. You take your brake handle, give it a couple of squeeze. That will bring the brake pads close to the disc. By squeezing the brakes, the oil, the brake fluid will push the compressors back in their proper position so that the disc is nicely squeezed, but not too squeezed. Do it a small test run on your street or whatever, brake, and it'll squeeze to the disc. Give it a couple of shots and they will properly be in their proper spacing in order to stop the motorcycle. So once that's done, make sure you didn't lose any brake fluid with the small compartment on the top next to your brakes, and everything should be good. Any questions? Just let me know. Ride safe.